Well guys, welcome back. As you can tell here, the maple syrup season is no longer in progress, and that's the reason why you haven't seen any more boiling videos. So I want to give you a bit of an update here. As you can see, I'm standing out amongst some of the maples, and that's where we have the trees tapped. Now, with the maple syrup season, and with this being our first maple syrup season, we had some ups and downs. Now, some of the ups were the sap flowed pretty good when it was flowing, sort of like today. However, the season also had some downfalls, and what those were was probably the result of our maple syrup boiling setup. And if you remember from our other videos, make sure you check those out. It was our wood stove that we had boiling our sap on top of with little pans. Those pans ultimately, I think, was the hard part for our boiling season. What ended up happening was we never really got a solid boil going. So we would get the wood stove up to temperature, and we'd get the sap boiling, but we didn't get it up to a real good rolling boil, at least for not a long period of time. As a result, it took hours and hours and hours and hours of time to boil that sap down to a big enough concentration where we could start to finish it and make maple syrup. So as a result, we spent an awfully long time out there feeding the wood to that wood stove in attempts to get the heat up into those little pans to boil off the syrup, or boil off the sap into syrup. So next year, next season, 2020, what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of using that convection, I guess, instead of having the wood stove transferring heat through the metal into the metal in the pan, ultimately to the sap, we're going to actually have a setup where the flames from the wood stove or from whatever heating source hits the pan directly that's holding the sap. That will hopefully get the sap up to a higher temperature, or at least maintain a higher temperature for a longer period of time. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you guys over to the proposed setup for next year. Now I know this isn't going to help this year, even though the trees are still running. We could be out gathering and boiling, but for next year, this is what the setup's going to be. So let's head over, we'll have a look at it, and you guys can judge whether you think this is going to work or not, or whether, whether it's a bad idea as well. So let's take a look. That was kind of neat. Just had two mallards flying over. Around here we have a bit of a migratory path here for waterfowl, and with the lakes further north just starting to come close to thawing, we're probably getting waterfowl that are coming back north, so kind of neat that way. Anyways, back to the maple syrup. So as you guys saw in the other videos, this was the setup. So if we take the pans that we were using, we had one like that, and we had the other one like this, and I took the top part of the chimney off, but this was our general setup. So in order for this to work, we had to have this just pumping with heat, transferring that heat through the steel up into the metal pan and ultimately to the sap. Now this worked for a little while. However, as I mentioned, this took a really long time. So next year we have this stainless steel pot here. What we're going to do is we're going to put our sap from the trees, so from our pails, directly into this stainless steel pot here, and then we're going to get a burn barrel. The reason we're going to use a burn barrel is the diameter of this actually fits right on top of a 55-gallon drum. So we have a steel drum. We're going to place this over top. I'm going to chock full that drum with wood, light her up, and hopefully the flames from the barrel hitting the bottom of this stainless steel pot there, hopefully that will get it up to temperature and keep it at temperature longer, because we had several nights where, although we weren't filming and we were fast forward and things and all that, we actually were out here in the dark waiting for this thing to bring these sap containers up to a boil. So a lot of late nights, and ultimately led to the basically pulling the plug on the 2019 season, just because we weren't efficient enough. As a result, we got a bunch of leftover wood because we anticipated being able to have a longer season this year. But when push comes to shove, when the efficiency isn't there, it just isn't making sense for us to continue. So why aren't we out there right now? gathering sap and using this setup? Well, a few reasons. The barrel that we planned on using for this setup is still frozen on the ground. And believe it or not, it is incredibly difficult to find a 55-gallon drum in our area. Now, I'm not talking one that's full of stuff. I mean one that's empty and ready to be cut up and made into a burn barrel. So I know that's a pretty poor excuse. I'm sure I could dig up something somewhere. But at the end of the day, we're getting to the point where the temperature is no longer below zero at night and above zero during the day. And so we're just about to say that's it. So anyways, if you've seen the other videos and you want to know just exactly how this worked, be sure to check those videos out. I think we got 3 or 4 of those videos out, and it's linked in a playlist, so you can check them all out at once. But for those who are interested, have any questions at all about the setup we already used, things to avoid, what our first experiences were for maple syrup making, feel free to put them in the comments below. So just like anything, you live and you learn. I think we learned a bit more than we lived this year with this maple syrup season, but we had fun nonetheless. We made a bit of syrup, and next year we hope to have a more efficient setup and ultimately a better go of syrup. And click subscribe, that would help me a lot, and it will also give you guys notifications as more videos come down the pipe. So thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.